Welcome back for the final Christmas related video of the year. Today we'll be looking at one of my favorite holiday favorites, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Starring Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, written by the great John Hughes and directed by Jeremiah S. Chechik. So, let's get this started. And to get into the Christmas spirit, I decided to wear a sweater vest, which it's kinda itchy. Now, before we dive into the movie, I'd like to give a brief history of the National Lampoon franchise. So, National Lampoon was a Harvard magazine that originated in 1969. It had text pieces, cartoons, comic strips, funny pages, and a section called Photo Funnies, which is basically a comic strip using photographs instead of illustrations. Normally, you'd flip open a page and find pictures of nude or at least semi-nude models. It wasn't dirty enough to be considered a porn magazine like Playboy, but it was enough for any middle schooler to get their first glimpse of boobs. Boobs! Boobs! Teenagers had Mad Magazine, college students had National Lampoon. Anyways, they went on to make vinyls, cassette tapes, CDs, a radio comedy show called National Lampoon Radio Hour, a TV sitcom, which John Hughes wrote episodes for called Delta House, and finally its film franchise, with the first one being National Lampoon's Animal House, starring John Belushi. It was extremely successful, so they made National Lampoon's Class Reunion, which wasn't nearly as successful as Animal House, so the following year they started the Vacation series with Chevy Chase. The first film, National Lampoon's Vacation, was a smash hit, so then we got National Lampoon's European Vacation, and the last vacation movie of the 80s, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which was based on a John Hughes story, Christmas 59, which was published in the 1980 issue of the National Lampoon magazine. They started principal photography on March 27, 1989, and released the film on December 1st of that same year. That means they had 249 days to film, edit, compose music, and sound mix the film. That's 21,513,600 seconds of non-stop work they had to put in. Now that's some dedication. The film received mixed to positive reviews. Financially, it did very well, coming at number 2 at the box office, right behind Back to the Future Part 2. Movie critic Roger Ebert gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, saying, "The movie is curious in how close it comes to delivering on its material. Sequence after sequence seems to contain all the necessary material to be well on the way toward a payoff, and then it somehow doesn't work." However, since then, the film has gotten a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes and an 86% on the audience score. Well, that's enough of backstory. Let's dive into the film and see if it holds up after all these years. Starting off, the opening has an animated credit sequence directed by Bill Croyer, who also did the title animation for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Anyways, I love the hand-drawn animation. It's very fluid and helps set the festive tone and fast-paced energy for the film. Nowadays, this would be done using Flash or CGI, which is cool, but there's something more special about this. The movie pretty much speaks for itself. Chevy Chase once again does a great job at being the optimistic, crazy dad. A lot of the comedy relies on his performance, and luckily, he's able to be funny without even having to say anything. His facial expressions alone are hilarious. You can really tell that he wants what's best for his family and have his dream Christmas, but when things don't go exactly as planned, he's still the only one that remains positive. I mean, for the most part. His boss, played by Bill Murray's brother, Brian Doyle Murray, is great. He's not in the movie much, but I still love the guy. This isn't the first time he plays an asshole, cheap dude. The previous year, he played Earl Cross in Scrooged, which is essentially the same character. I can't forget to mention the snobby neighbors, Todd and Margot, played by Nicholas Guest and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. They're there as a side joke, and we see how the Griswolds affect their neighbors' lives, which is interesting. I find myself laughing every time it cuts back to them, because even the audience feels a sense of repetitiveness. I can't really call them assholes or anything because I understand why they wouldn't like Clark. He breaks their windows, blinds them with his Christmas lights, and accidentally opens the door during a chase scene with a dog and a squirrel, which both land on Margot. The rest of the cast is good. They don't really stick out that much. We have the brother and sister who keep arguing and find each other disgusting, the caring wife, the lower class cousins, the forgetful, sleepy, sweet grandparents, and the pets. I don't really consider this a bad thing. I don't dislike them at all, but at the same time, I'm not crazy over them. The humor in the film has a strong sense of John Hughes, since he did in fact write the script. I don't know what it is, but at points it feels like he directed the film, so if you're a fan of Hughes' over-the-top sense of humor, I think this movie's up your alley. As for negatives, the main thing that threw me off was the ADR. It really isn't that good.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's a lot of work too, but if I'm out in the cold and I'm committed to decorating the house, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it big.
I find myself cringing every time they use it, but it's understandable. Crap happens and sometimes it's the last option. So I don't like taking off points for that, since it's not like it was the filmmaker's intent. Other than that, while the movie can move very fast, there are some points where it drags out just a little too long for my taste. Either way, I think most people can agree with me when I say Christmas Vacation is a classic Christmas film. It reminds us that even when things go horribly wrong, you still have your family there to help you and support you. The comedy is so silly and unreal, but that's what makes it so funny. It's the small details that give the movie a ton of rewatch value, like, why did the SWAT team break into the house before even confirming that Frank was in there? Why are there so many outlets connected to one socket? Why did Cousin Eddie put so much dog food on the cart? Actually, how did Cousin Eddie even kidnap Frank? And where did he get the bow? These are questions that are up to your imagination to decide. It's a movie that'll have you smiling from beginning to end and leave you with a warm, joyous feeling inside.
Hip, hip, hooray for Christmas Vacation.
In the end, I'm going to give National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation 7.69 out of 8 flying Santa decorations. Hold on, I'm reading the back of the VHS and they basically done a jolly fuck up. They spoiled the movie. And I know this is no Planet of the Apes or Empire Strikes Back, but look, it says an exploding turkey on the Griswold table. Technically, the turkey doesn't really explode. And a SWAT team taking battle stations outside. Well, now I know there's going to be a SWAT team outside the Griswold house. If I've never seen this movie before, and I read this, I'd be pretty pissed off. You know, I just realized that none of the movies I reviewed this month have any fun facts. Lucky for you, this one does. Roll the clip. In the scene where Clark is trying to get the Christmas lights to work, he takes his anger out on the plastic decorations. What you may not know is that Chevy Chase broke his pinky finger when he punched Santa Claus. Instead of breaking character, he continued by only kicking and clubbing the rest of the decorations. According to Chicago Magazine, Chris Columbus was originally set to direct this film, but dropped out after having 2 meetings with Chevy Chase saying that he can't do it with this guy. Instead, he went to go work on another John Hughes script called Home Alone. That's the film's director, Jeremiah S. Chechik, on the magazine cover. There's a few scenes where Clark is wearing a navy blue Chicago Bears ball cap. This is because he wears this hat in all the vacation movies, so yeah, now you know. Here's a small Easter egg. When Clark and Cousin Eddie are hanging out in the living room, they're drinking eggnog out of Wally World mugs. That's the place they went to in National Lampoon's Vacation. The Griswold's house is located in the same neighborhood where the Murtaugh family lived for all 4 Lethal Weapon movies. The houses are located on the Warner Brothers backlot. Here's a useless fact. While the Griswolds are putting up the Christmas tree, It's a Wonderful Life is playing. That film was directed by Frank Capra. Now, his grandson, Frank Capra III, was the assistant director on this film. The actress who plays Clark's mother, Diane Ladd, is only 8 years older than Chevy Chase. Okay, that's weird. Studio executives almost cut out the cat's electrocution scene because they were afraid that viewers might be offended by it. However, producer Maddie Simmons begged them to leave the scene in, Lucky enough, at the first test screening, the test audience all scored that scene as their favorite part of the movie. Christmas Vacation was Jeremiah Chechik's directorial debut. He was originally a fashion photographer for Vogue, then moved to directing commercials. Stanley Kubrick mentioned how Chechik's commercials had his favorite directing. This had studios chasing after Chechik. So in some weird way, we have Stanley Kubrick to thank for Christmas Vacation. Speaking of Chechik, before this film, he's never seen any of the Vacation movies. The reason why he chose to direct the script is because he'd never done any comedy beforehand. Technically, Ellen lied to the cops by saying that was the family's first kidnapping. In the first Vacation film, Clark forces Lasky the security guard at gunpoint to open up Wally World. And finally, this was Mae Questel's final film. In the movie, she played Aunt Bethany, but you may know her as the original voice for Betty Boop. And that's all the Christmas movies we'll talk about this year. So, Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. If not, Happy Holidays, and come back next week for the last video of 2017. Until next time, don't forget to please be kind. Rewind.